Got it. Yeah, it wasn't letting me get into my own meeting either from my phone, Monique. So I was like, crap, did they take away the ability to log in with more than one device? That's going to suck. Oh, so I have a nice big stack of dragons here to go over with you and how I use them for grid work and how you can use them for good work too. I'm feeling, is that right? Okay. It's mirrored, but that's all right. So I'm going to start off with the few dragons that aren't elemental dragons. In other words, earth, air, fire, water. So we can talk about those and how we can use those with grid work. And when I talk about grid work, what I mean is, I'm just peeking to see if our new member, welcome Sharon, whenever you get to read this. And we also have Simone who has joined us. I am talking about any sort of pranic healing or work with the earth from the outer layers, the crystalline grid, the old grid, the ley lines, down into the earth itself and all of the inhabitants of earth. So I know I've talked with you lots of times before about the alpha dragon because they are very useful. You know what? I'm going to mirror my video. Hang on. I think I can do that. Maybe that. Mirror. Well, okay. All right. There we go. Yay. Okay, that's better. That's why I was having such a hard time with the visual perspective earlier. So alpha dragons can eclipse stars, so that's why I'm always mentioning when the sun is particularly active, like, oh boy, has it been today. They are a good dragon to call on because they can eclipse stars. They are, the alpha dragon, of course, is the masculine energy, the creation energy, the manifesting things in the material reality. So that's like manifesting the 50 grid construction and solar weather. So if we were having, let's say, solar activity that was much more intense than it is at the moment, causing a lot of power grid disruption or physical effects for people or tech disruption, those sorts of things, if it was having some kind of a more catastrophic effect, we could all collectively be asking for alpha dragons to come help shield the planet during the sun's activities. But interesting development today, the sun started sending out radio waves. There's been a couple radio pulses, and that's pretty fascinating. I'll be excited to see how that develops. But these alpha dragons on a personal level, and also when I'm doing meditation or astral travel or timelines or anything like that, I always ask them to accompany me during times when I know the sun is very active, because it is helpful to have that extra shielding from the sun while you're traveling out there in the ethers. And then we have, I'm going to leave those on there, I think, for a little bit. We have the Sunshine Yellow Dragon, and Sunshine Yellow Dragon helps us to help the animals. It's such a sweet little dragon too. I love that the little birds are on the wing and has a little doe, or even a fawn, probably. So this isn't so much about calling in Sunshine Yellow Dragons to directly assist animals. It's more like working with their energy to assist animals. So we ask them to infuse us with that energy and connect us with the animal realm. This can also be a great dragon to utilize for animal communication as well. It's funny, as I'm saying this now, I'm wondering if Maybe that isn't my Sophie dog. But in times where there's a disaster, or animals are endangered in one way or another, or if they are sick or injured. So, you can use this energy on a individual basis, and you can also use this on a collective basis. So, for instance, I know, wasn't it in the fall, I think? I'm trying to remember time. So it just seems to meld together these days. But I know Justin was worried about the iguanas on the trees during a storm that was much colder in the south than they're used to having. And so I think it was in Florida, maybe. And so he was doing grid work for the iguanas. So the sunshine yellow dragon is a great partner for doing that sort of protection of animals when they're having a hard time. And so when I want to call these dragons or speak with them, I do it just like I would any other guide or alien or supernatural being or ancestor or somebody else's loved one, spirits, fae, elementals. I usually have my eyes closed initially, and I'm doing some mindful breathing and just getting myself into a relaxed state, and I just talk to them. And sometimes it's a very quick process because it'll be something that I'm actively witnessing that isn't like a longer event, like say a hurricane, which occurs over a period of hours or days. But like a brief incident, like was that only yesterday? Yeah, was that yesterday? Yeah, that was yesterday. No, Saturday. Good gravy. Yesterday. So yesterday there were some geese having a hard time. And so that's an example where I did kind of close my eyes and breathe a little bit but I was quickly, just saying, if any air dragons are available, please go assist the leader of this flock because they are in distress and they're confused. And then I send the leader of the flock, which makes me think of that song, Leader of the Pack. The leader of the flock. Oh, get the flock out of here. So sure enough, I'll just like see an image in my head of them with my eyes closed, of them getting into formation and going, and then usually it happens rather quickly. Fortunately, the geomagnetic storm wasn't as severe as we had been expecting, and it seems to have passed for now. But I'm sure we're going to get another wallop because we've had multiple M-class flares today, and I'm pretty sure 2 halo CMEs. So deep blue dragon, I love these dragons. This dragon that isn't an elemental, because they are very good at clearing density. They can move through dense materials, so they can go underground, they can go into the earth directly, they can go into the oceans, they can go into volcanoes, and they are expert at clearing dense energy and dense emotions. So these are really great dragons to call in areas where there's trauma or war, those sorts of things, unrest. This can help to clear away anything that isn't of the highest good. And also it helps to, clear the energy around you and around your surroundings. I found this very useful during the election a couple years ago and at a few different times when my community felt a little bit hostile here locally. And so it was very interesting to see how the energy really did feel different after asking them for assistance. But Anyway, they can fly through all of that and remove what doesn't belong. Another great way to utilize them is for areas of land, like say scenes, battle scenes, genocide, pollution, those sorts of things. Any damage or trauma that has been done, they are good for removing what isn't of the highest good there as well. So those are the deep blue dragons. And now we get into the elemental dragons. So there's earth, air, fire, and water, and then there's some combinations and deviations of those together. So earth dragon, which I really just love this one. It's so pretty. I mean, of course I do, right? Little Miss Earth signs. So earth dragons, there we go. Okay, I like that. Okay, that's good. And I love that there's like, that could be onyx, it could be tourmaline, but those black crystals are very powerful and very grounding. But one of the things that earth dragons are great for with respect specifically to grid work is absorbing water. So if there's an area that is having flooding or flash flooding, those sorts of things, you can ask earth dragons for help to make the earth more able to... What just happened? That is very strange. Hang on. For the love of Pete, what is happening to technology tonight? Okay. There we go. Are you gonna behave now? It's not dead. That was so strange. Oy. So, earth dragons can come in to help absorb and manage floods. Calming seismic activity is another one. If you're aware there's an area that's having a lot of activity or just had a big event and could use not having another one right away, they are good at helping to steady the land. And then also land reclamation, like restoring land after fire, allowing things to be able to grow again. And earth dragons ultimately helped create and patrol the ley lines that already exist. So they are very capable of activating and clearing and illuminating the golden ley lines that go all across the earth, the existing and the new grid, because they're really just kind of like, layers of the same onion, if you would. But I just think she's so pretty. Earth dragon is so pretty. And if you're not sure what ley lines are, you can kind of look it up and go look at a map. I know we have a lot of new people, but most of you who come here already have a pretty good scope of knowledge. But they're lines that crisscross, ironically, in that figure 8 pattern a little bit around the earth, and then there are other lines that cross them, but those also intersect at places where Earth's chakra are. So air dragon, when I started to do this, I thought, oh, of course it is. I had never really paid attention to the air dragon card that much specifically. I just had thought, well, air dragons, birds, they go together, right? And so I went to do this, and I found that there's birds on the air dragon card. So air dragons are very helpful for clearing roads. For instance, if you're needing to travel and there's wet roads, rain, snow, they can go through ahead of you and clear the road while still leaving the water in the environment for the earth and the surrounding area. And I just had an example of this happen. I had asked for help to move a storm through ahead of us a little bit quicker than it was planned. And then also asked for dry roads. So we're driving along the interstate, and my son says, how can it be snowing but not hitting the ground? Because it was like it was as if we were driving through an energy tunnel, like a wormhole type of thing. And then the snow was all around, but not on the road. And then the other side of the road, it was snowing, but that makes a little more sense because of the wind shear and such from the mountains and the differences in temperature. So they're also great for slowing down storms or pushing them through faster. Say in the instance of a hurricane, they can be applying counter pressure to slow down that rotation. They're obviously very helpful with bird navigation, and clearing fire smoke is another thing that they are very good at. They can come in and clear the smoke from the area without stirring up more fire or anything like that. So that's what air dragon is good for. And then we have our water dragon. This one is particularly lovely too, because I just love blues and greens anyway. But so we have our water dragon, and there's a little lionfish, and those look like maybe they're supposed to be clownfish, but they're not really. Maybe angelfish. So water dragon, predictably, is great for any issues with waterways or oceans. So if there's a blockage, if there's a contamination, if there's, let's say there's a tsunami, and it's heading for land, you can ask water dragons to help slow that down, to help change the currents so that it's not as impactful on the coasts. They can assist in directing currents that get disrupted by solar activity, and by things like the polar vortex, etc. And they are great at removing obstacles in such a way so that you just sort of flow around them. So even if you are just traveling, yourself and are looking to get around some obstacles that have come up for you, they can be very helpful. And they can also be very helpful for emotional obstacles. So, you might not think of, I'm going to send a water dragon to this place where these two groups are fighting for whatever reason, or arguing, or where there's hurt feelings, because water is also emotion. So they can help clear that out and bring back in going with the flow for even, land that has emotional trauma associated with it, which unfortunately there's probably a lot of places that do. And I and I don't just mean, something bad here happened once. I mean like generational taking of land, enslaving of people, those sorts of emotional traumas. And then our fire dragon, they're great for burning up lower energy and low vibe. fire that right up and get it out of there. But another use or job that they are good at for fire dragon is trauma of land, because they can clear that lower vibrational energy that is still lingering and existing from when the event was occurring. The residue of those sorts of things that get trapped in the land, much the way our traumas and things can get trapped in our bodies, right? So another use is that not only do they clear pathways, but they can create a protective wall. So if I'm doing like weather grid work where I am trying to shield an area from flooding, for instance, they can be using that firewall to protect a certain area that's at risk. And even in a case of fire, which you might think, well, fire dragon isn't, we don't need more fire in the event of fire or firestorms. But probably most of you have heard of fire breaks that they create with forest fires, and to manage those large fires where they create a furrow that is controlled, and what happens is that stops the fire from spreading any farther because it just stops at this fire break. So the fire dragons can do that as well and create a fire break for you. So for instance, if you know about a forest fire area, you can ask for assistance to, protect life that might be threatened, like areas where there are homes and stuff. It's very important to be specific with what we're asking for, because we don't want to be asking for our McMansion not to burn down or other things which really probably aren't for the Earth's benefit in the first place. But we're doing this work for Gaia balancing and for loving the Earth, and as a byproduct of that, loving ourselves and our fellow humans and the other life on this planet. So it's about, not asking for selfish things that are only a benefit for you. That's where I was going with that. So then we get into the combo dragons, which are all very pretty and have different little things you can do with them. So here we have our Earth and Air Dragon, which, as it says on the card, also represents a balance of heaven and earth. The Earth and Air Dragon can be great for balancing strong winds if an area is having strong winds. Life force for Earth's chakras. So if you were focusing on Earth, and let's say we're having an area of intense volcanic or seismic activity that is right where Gaia's root chakra is, it's a good idea to ask for Earth and Air Dragon to bring in that life force into Earth's chakras, and all 12 of them, not just the ones we usually think of and see on the little chart. Another function of Earth and Air Dragons is materializing the vision, construction, structured dream, thought, wish, desire of the reality we're wanting to bring in, and then brings it down to earth. So as above, so below. So things become up in the air and they materialize down on the earth. I hope that makes sense, that, you know, it's about balancing that sort of above and below energy. And then we have this gorgeous looking dragon. So this dragon is solely working with the 5th dimensional ley lines and has been actively working on the new grid for a very, very long time. And I'm sure they've been super busy the last few years especially. And as I'm saying that, I'm feeling like a sense of great appreciation and gratitude that more humans are helping out with that. But Earth and Fire Dragon works with the ley lines, that 5D grid that we are constructing. So they can be very helpful when the Schumann is active. If we know that is going on, and we can ask the Earth and Fire Dragons to work on the grid and the ley lines so that the Schumann and Gaia are easily balanced. So it's finding a balance between that fire and earth energy that makes our planet chug along. Earth and Water Dragon. I really love these. Creates the foundation for new growth. So Earth and Water Dragon. This dragon can be very helpful with floods in particular, because we're, you know, it's the earth and the water working together to manage the flood, manage the mudslide. It can also help with repairing fire damage to a landmass because, you know, there's a process that the land goes through after, let's say, a volcano or a forest fire that can take a couple decades. Sometimes I think some of it happens surprisingly quickly. I think it's, and I'm sure Monique knows more about this than me, but the smaller fauna or flora, I mean, seems to come back quicker, like the little things, and then more starts to grow and more starts to grow, and then the fauna comes back. And anyway, but this can also be a great dragon for gardening or crops. Like, for instance, here, spring is a time when we have a lot of issues, especially with the way the weather patterns are kind of unpredictable with the seasons right now. We grow peaches and several other orchard fruits here, and grapes, of course, for wine. There's like a lot of vineyards. So they will have problems where it gets warm like it has been, things start to bloom, and then we get another freeze, and so a lot of stuff will die off. And so you can ask Earth and Water Dragon to come in and help out with that. But mud makes things grow, and so Earth and Water Dragon will help you make the land able to grow things. And then we have Air and Fire Dragon. And this one is great for volcanoes. Not surprisingly, you see the volcano in the background there. But air and fire creates steam, right? So that steam is a force. It is a momentum, a forward momentum. So this air and fire dragon can be helpful with volcanoes, rerouting fires and lava. So say there is a fire and it's going to hit a bunch of people or a large wildlife area, you can be asking for a rerouting of that fire, whatever fire is necessary. You can be asking for a rerouting of the lava flow. They can be very helpful in firestorms to help direct that and disperse that. And then hurricane management, also very helpful, because the fire aspect can be creating that protective wall, and the air aspect can be running counter rotation for the rotation of the storm. Then we have our air and water dragon. This is another one that's particularly gorgeous, and I just love the flying fish. I have been, as a kid, I was so fascinated with the idea of flying fish, and of course, I didn't quite fully grasp the idea that they weren't flying, that they were just jumping, but I still like to think they're flying. What do we know, right? What was I was listening to or watching something, and it was talking about how even animal life comes here to experience Earth, and like the animal realm has its own star seeds. So animals that aren't even native to here, sort of like the cetaceans being from Mintaka. So the air and water dragon can assist cetaceans and ocean life. So say you hear about a pod of whales that's threatened in one area or another, you can ask an air and water dragon to go assist them. You can ask them to help oxygenate the water, put air in the water. I don't know. I mean, I honestly try not to overload myself with this information, because I don't need to have the worst possible outcome in my brain all the time. But I do see, headlines and articles and things, and I pay attention to whales especially. But part of what has happened to a lot of ports and different places in the ocean is that due to various kinds of pollution, the water isn't oxygenated anymore. So that could be a way that you can help if you hear about something like that. Can also clean water, purify water, help with oil spills, those sorts of things, or like a contaminated river or waterway, a chemical spill, and they can create rain. And keeping in mind that when we are asking for all of this, it is in the vein of Gaia's highest good, balancing the earth and protecting life whenever possible. Sometimes things are meant to happen how they happen, I think, and I don't think that we just have like an unlimited capacity to do whatever the hell we want. I don't know, within reason. I mean, we're still in these overlapping realities, so we're kind of subject to each other's stuff as well. And then lastly, we have fire and water dragon. Steam purification or warming. So let's say like the iguana zone where it got really cold, fire and water dragon could have helped warm it up a little bit. This is also a force for rapid change. It has that momentum of the steam, and then balancing things during fire season. So that is the primer of all the different dragons that we can invite and use for dragon grid work. And I encourage you to connect with, come to understand, and I'm going to get this out of the recording because I don't need to be there. Leave. Okay, there we go. All right, there I am. Use your own imagination, intuition, heart's desires, dreams, art. Maybe you like to draw or paint or do digital art or something like that, and dragons start to come out in your work. And, name your dragon. Decide what that dragon is, who they are, what they do, what their place is for you, and ask that energy to assist with things that you feel like are its purpose. So I hope everybody enjoyed the dragon Gridwork talk, and thank you to everybody who was here and anybody who wasn't here because they got frustrated with whatever technical difficulties Zoom was having a fit about. I'm going to stop the recording and then check in with who's here.